Welcome back. If you've been following along, we've been in a slow process together. Week 1, we talked about surveillance fatigue. That particular kind of exhaustion your body carries after being around someone who watches you instead of meeting you. Week 2, we sat with installed guilt. The heaviness your body holds for emotional climates it never created. Today, we're going somewhere that might feel very familiar to a lot of you, and it might also feel confusing. Because what we're going to talk about today is something most people have been praised for. We're going to talk about freeze, but not the way most people teach it. Most of the time, when people hear about the freeze response, they think of a deer in headlights. They think of someone going blank during a crisis. And that is real, but that is not the only way freeze shows up in relational environments. Sometimes freeze looks like the most well-behaved person in the room. Sometimes freeze looks like politeness. What freeze actually is? Let me back up for a second. Your nervous system has a few main responses to threat. Most people know fight and flight. Some people know freeze. But there's a difference between what happens in a single threatening moment and what happens when the threatening environment is ongoing. In a single moment of danger, freeze might look like going still, going silent, going numb. The body shuts down motor responses because movement isn't safe. But in ongoing relational environment, a home, a marriage, a family system, a church, a workplace, freeze doesn't look like a single moment. It becomes a way of being. And when freeze becomes a way of being, it starts looking like personality. It starts looking like someone who is easygoing, agreeable, low maintenance, polite, measured, careful with their words, good at reading the room, gracious under pressure. And nobody questions it because the culture rewards it. Where this lives in the body. Let me give you some things to notice, not to diagnose, just to recognize. You're in a conversation and someone says something that crosses a line. Maybe it's dismissive. Maybe it's controlling. Maybe it's a subtle rewrite of something that happened, and your body does something very specific. Your throat tightens, not dramatically, just enough that the words you were about to say don't come. Your face stays calm. You might even smile. Your voice, if it comes at all, is steady. Maybe quieter than usual. Your hands might go still in your lap. And inside, something has locked. You can't access what you actually think. You can't find your real response. It's like the signal between what you feel and what you can express just went dark. And what comes out instead is management, a careful, measured, appropriate response, something that keeps the interaction smooth. something that doesn't escalate anything. That is not politeness. That is freeze wearing the mask of social grace. Why it gets confused. Here's why this is hard. Because from the outside, these two things look identical. A person who is genuinely gracious and a person whose nervous system has locked them into compliance. From across the table, you cannot tell the difference. And here's the harder part. From the inside, you might not be able to tell the difference either. Because if this started early enough, you never learned what genuine, chosen politeness feels like versus what your body does automatically when threat is present. So let me give you a question to sit with, not to answer right now, just to hold. When you are polite in a difficult conversation, does it feel like a choice? Or does it feel like the only option your body will give you? Choice has breath in it. Choice has a sense of, I could say something else, but I'm choosing this. There's flexibility. There's access to your own mind. Freeze doesn't have that. Freeze has a locked quality, a narrowing. Your options collapse to one. Manage this moment. Get through it. Don't make it worse. The panic underneath. One of the body clues I listed for this week is panic about disconnection. And that one is important. In certain relational environments, the cost of not being polite is catastrophic. Not because someone will hit you, though sometimes that too, but because withdrawal will come. Silence will come. The emotional temperature of the house will drop, and you will be on the outside of something, and you don't know for how long. So the body learns compliance is the price of connection, and the nervous system will override your authentic response to pay that price automatically before you even know it's happening. That panic you feel when you think about speaking up, that's not weakness. That's your nervous system remembering the cost. It archived the data. It knows what happens when you're honest, and it would rather shut you down than let you take that risk again. The aftermath. Here's how you know this is freeze and not choice. Pay attention to what happens after the conversation. If you chose to be gracious, you walk away feeling settled. Maybe tired, but settled. You said what you meant to say in the way you meant to say it. If you froze, the aftermath is different. You leave the conversation, and within minutes, sometimes hours, sometimes not until the middle of the night, everything you actually wanted to say shows up. All at once. The words you couldn't find flood back, and now you're replaying the conversation, rewriting it, arguing in your head, composing what you should have said. And alongside that comes a very specific emotion. It's a mix of frustration and grief. Frustration because you couldn't access yourself in the moment. Grief because this isn't the first time. Sound familiar? That's the body releasing what it held. That replay isn't anxiety. It's your nervous system trying to process what it couldn't process in real time because it was in survival mode. How this connects to weeks 1 and 2. Let me show you the thread. Week 1, your body is exhausted because it's under surveillance. Someone is watching, not meeting, and your nervous system stays managed. Week 2, guilt has been installed. Your body carries emotional responsibility for climates it didn't create. You feel wrong even when nothing happened. Week 3, today, your body shuts down your authentic response in real time. You go polite, you go managed, not because you chose it, but because your nervous system decided it wasn't safe to be real. Surveillance, guilt, freeze. Do you see the progression? First, the body detects the environment. Then, the body takes on false responsibility for it. Then, the body learns to manage itself inside it. And from the outside, it just looks like a really well-adjusted person. A word about recovery. I want to be careful here because I'm not going to tell you to go start being confrontational. That's not what this is about. And honestly, if your nervous system has been doing this for decades, telling it to just speak up is like telling someone with a broken leg to just walk. What I want you to take from today is recognition. That's it. Start noticing. The next time you're in a conversation and your throat tightens and your words go still and your body goes smooth and polite, just notice. You don't have to do anything about it. Don't judge it. Don't try to override it. Just let yourself see it. That's my body. That's freeze. That's not who I am. That's what my nervous system does to keep me safe. That distinction alone is enormous because it means the politeness isn't your identity. It's your architecture. And architecture can be understood. The spiritual physics of freeze. I want to close where I always close, with Jesus, real Jesus, because this isn't about a nervous system conversation alone. It's a spiritual one. Before I go here, I want to say something. If you grew up in a system that used scripture as a weapon, if the Bible was part of the architecture that controlled you, I see that, and I'm not going to do that here. In the scripture I'm going to read, Jesus sees the architecture of the system that forced your compliance, the system that created this freeze response in you, and that is what I am addressing in today's reading. There is a moment in Scripture where Jesus is standing in front of the people who have perfected compliance, the Pharisees. They have external behavior in place. They are measured, appropriate, controlled, and Jesus looks at them and says, "You are whitewashed tombs, beautiful on the outside, but inside, death." The point is not the accusation. The point is that Jesus could see the difference between chosen obedience and performed compliance. He could see when the outside did not match the inside, and he was not fooled by the presentation. That matters because in the environments we're talking about, the system rewards presentation. The system says, as long as you look right, you are right. As long as you're polite, you're fine. As long as the surface is smooth, nothing is wrong. And Jesus walks into that system and says, I see what's underneath. Here is what I want you to hear. If your nervous system has been locking you into politeness for years, for decades, God was never confused by it. He never mistook your freeze for peace. He never looked at your compliance and called it faith. He saw the locked throat. He saw the words that couldn't come. He saw you managing the room while something inside was suffocating. And he did not call that obedience. He called it captivity. The God who delivers does not demand the performance that captivity installed. That's spiritual physics. The body tells the truth, and the God who made the body reads it fluently. He is not looking at your behavior and grading your compliance. He is looking at your nervous system and asking, who locked you in there? And he knows the answer. Like so many of his questions, it's rhetorical. He's not asking because he doesn't know. He's asking because he wants you to begin to see what he already sees, the truth about the system that locked you. Because he can't set you free from something you can't yet recognize as a cage. That is the through line of spiritual physics. The body tells the truth. God reads it fluently. And his questions are invitations to see what he sees, so deliverance has somewhere to land. So when you start to notice the freeze, when you start to see that your politeness might be architecture and not identity, know that you are not discovering a flaw. You are discovering something God has seen all along. And his response to it was never try harder. It was, I came to set you free. That's where the nervous system and the spirit meet. That's the physics. That's where we'll leave it in this week. Freeze that looks like politeness. The body's way of protecting you by making you disappear into compliance. And a God who was never fooled by the disappearance. If something in this landed for you, sit with it gently. Don't force anything. Your nervous system has been doing this work for a long time. And it deserves patience, not correction, and so do you. Next time, we'll talk about what happens after the freeze, when you leave the interaction and your mind scrambles. Confusion after conversations. Week 4, we'll get there. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time. With love, Rhea. You are safe, you are seen, and you are deeply loved.